we call it this conveyor belt of college athletics. You hop on your freshman year and you're riding it and everything's good. We're grateful because, we have a scholarship, we have food, we get equipment, we get all these great things. So you're just like stuck on the conveyor belt. And then one thing happens, we call it breaking down, like a conveyor belt breaks down and you get like pushed off to the side. And 2020 is when I got off the conveyor belt. I realized like, yeah, everything's great and you're headed the right way and you provided everything, but then you realize everything that's also wrong inside of college athletics. You realize the struggles people are going through. You realize all these different things, and that's where this whole activism came about. And it was my first time to step off the conveyor belt and realize it. And it was just a crazy experience because you don't realize all the stories and issues.
Welcome back to the Untapped Potential Podcast, where we interview local visionaries from the Pacific Northwest.
Today, we're interviewing Dallas Hobbs, former WSU football player, graphic designer, and activist.
In this episode, we talk about growing up in Iowa, being a college athlete during COVID, and advocating for college athletes' health and safety.
We also dive into his podcast ventures and how one freelance job turned into him owning a brewery. Hey everyone, welcome to the Untapped Potential Podcast. Today we're tapping in with Dallas Hobbs. Welcome, Dallas.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
What's going on?
I really like you guys' setup.
Thank you. For sure. How was the drive over? How long was it? Was it rainy?
What was it, like 4.5? Came over Friday. Like I said, turned it into a whole little trip, just come up on the weekend and then wrap it up with this. So it's been nice and perfect. I've definitely enjoyed it all.
How's what's the difference between Washington and Iowa?
We're in Pullman, it's not too much different. Obviously, there's just rolling hills. Iowa's mainly farmlands too, so most of the surrounding areas in Pullman are almost like not my hometown, I'd say, but what surrounds it. I'm from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, so it's more like Spokane.
Oh,
in a way,
see.
like kind of that same like city aspect, and then there's suburbs and all that. So, but Pullman's kind of similar to other like Iowa communities, I would say.
Cool.
Gotcha.
So born and raised in Cedar Rapids?
Yeah, born and raised, lived basically my whole life except for college, and then I did a year of prep school out in Massachusetts. So besides the last 6 years, Iowa is all I really knew.
Wow. What was that like growing up in Cedar Rapids?
It was it was nice. I played sports most of my life, so there wasn't much else to do besides sports. My dad played at the University of Iowa. Mom grew up in Iowa as well, so that's all they knew as well. And then all I grew up doing is sports, basketball, football, baseball, track and field. Whenever I played sports, that's most of my life was sports.
Right. Did you know since a young age that football was going to be the sport that you stuck with? Or?
No, I actually wanted to play basketball.
Oh, really? Because of the height?
And then I ended up liking basketball a lot more. But then up until junior year of high school, I tore my meniscus.
Ooh.
So it was playoffs of my junior year, tore my meniscus, didn't get to play the rest of playoffs, ended up missing basketball season, ended up missing track season, ended up missing like part of baseball. So kind of like reevaluated everything. And then that junior year is that junior summer going into senior year is like a big year to get recruited and everything and go to camps. But I really couldn't, I wasn't like fully recovered. So I didn't have a good year in that sense too. So that kind of changed my whole like outlook on everything. But missing that basketball season and the next sport was football, it kind of was like, all right, well, it's my senior year. Like I need to get some type of scholarship, some type of offer. So it was like full blown, football at that point.
Right.
Damn. And so is that what led you to that prep school?
Yeah. So I had a family friend out there, Deerfield Academy. It's in Greenfield, Massachusetts. Really, you think Pullman's small? That's even, I think Deerfield, where the school's at, there's not really, it's just like the school and that's it. But then like 5 minutes away is Greenfield, Massachusetts. And it's like probably a town of like maybe 5,000 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So
Tiny.
big. But you really weren't supposed to go off campus. There was a whole bunch of rules and stuff, but ended up doing that postgraduate year, which not a lot of people know about in the Midwest or even on the West Coast. It's like an East Coast thing. It's normal 9th to 12th grade, and then they take 25 postgraduates, some of them being academic, but a majority of them being athletic. So I was one of those 25s, and it was a cool little opportunity to just be out there and get another year to mature, grow up, get better at football and other things. And then, just size up a little bit because my senior year, I was probably like 210.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And
Oh, wow.
got to WSU at 215, 220, leaving my last year at WCU, I was 300. So
yeah, I was looking at your
Right.
stats,
put
bro.
up a whole lot of weight. So it was pretty
Yeah.
crazy, just that whole experience.
Yeah, and you guys on the video, you can't tell, but Dallas, it says you're 6'6". Is that true?
He said
It's
6'5"
weird.
when you
I
got
say 6'5" because it's sometimes you'll get 6'4.5", sometimes
Right.
6'6", 6'5". There's a whole range, so I just meet in the middle.
There you go.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. What was the recruiting process like when you were choosing schools?
Yeah, so actually, it was different than most just because of that postgraduate year. So I think I decided to go to prep school, posted on social media, all that, and like a little bit after senior year of football. But then they knew I was doing like another year of high school. So after that, I had like 3 offers right when I decided to do that. But they were like Patriot League schools. Like they never saw me really play or anything. But they offered me knowing I had this extra year to develop, but then still had another 4 years. It's not like the JUCO route. Where
Oh,
JUCO, you're
got it.
losing 2 years of eligibility, a year and a half. I don't lose any of my eligibility, so I still could redshirt and have 5 years but 4 to play. So it kind
wow.
of changes the dynamic of how they recruit you because they know that they can take you and have you for a while. So it changed it up, but I had a majority of smaller schools for a while. Then started, going out there, going to camps and stuff that following summer and just talking to coaches and really explaining, because some people don't even know the whole experience. So explain it to them. And then it started to open up more and more. But mainly Patriot League schools, Villanova, a couple like smaller Division Ones, and then it kind of kept growing. And then Boston College, Syracuse, other people came into the mix. But didn't really, I think a lot of them were hesitant because I was still very small to be a DN and play at that level. But then actually ended up committing to the University of Connecticut, which is crazy. I was supposed to stay on the East Coast, but that whole coaching staff got fired.
Damn.
And that was pretty late too. That was probably like what signing period back then was like January 1st or something. This was probably like a month or so before that. And I'm like, all right, what do I do now? Was thinking the Ivy League route, kind of wanted to do that, but then didn't really want to do that. That was my next option. But then luckily my head coach at prep school, he coached with Coach Grinch, Coach Sage,
Okay.
which was our old wide receiver coach and D coordinator at New Hampshire. They flew out, came and saw me, offered me right there. So I got lucky, and that's how I ended up in Pullman.
Damn, man.
Never looked back, and it was a great experience. I'm happy to be in Pullman, and so many opportunities came from that.
Absolutely.
A lot of the things I have now I wouldn't have if I didn't make my way to Pullman. So I'm happy for that community, happy for the fan base and all that.
When you got to Pullman, like, was that your first time there?
Yeah, no, that was when I took my official visit. Took my official visit, like probably it had to have been like December or something, like 3 weeks before signing day.
Oh, damn.
That was like the last part of our recruiting class. But no, went there.
In December, that was the first time?
The first time.
Was there snow?
I didn't know anything about WSU. I didn't even know they were in the Pac-12 because, I mean, when you think about the Pac-12, like being from the Midwest, you hear about Oregon, all the USCs, like the bigger schools like that. I didn't know anything about WSU, but got on campus. But I know it's weird for like Florida guys, California guys, because they're from bigger cities. So when I was making the drive from Spokane to Pullman, it was like not much different. This is a drive in Iowa, so it didn't faze me. I know they try to hide it from other people, I bet, just because it's all farmlands. But for me, I was like, all right, this feels normal. Then got there. It's a college town, almost like the University of Iowa. And I grew up around that whole community all my life because my dad played there. So it all just fit together, and I like the coaches, I like the community, and everything just went well. And I was like, yeah, let's go.
The Pullman winter didn't scare you off, though?
I was worse.
That's right. Yeah.
I was way worse.
Vacation.
I was negative for a couple days, sometimes weeks.
Man.
So, yeah, I know you. I always go back. I usually go back around Christmas time, and I'd go back, and it'd be like the last like 3 or 4 like New Year's. It was like -20.
Oh no, miss me with that.
And
That's
you're
crazy.
You're going out for New Year's, and you're like, what the heck is this? -20, like literally -20, and it's just.
No, I'd rather stay inside.
Yeah,
at that
Pullman
point.
was nothing compared to Iowa.
You were good. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
And so what was it like just meeting, your new teammates in Pullman, kind of building that chemistry? What was your experience your first year?
Yeah, it was super cool, and those are most of my friends. I ended up living with all of them, and just staying close to everyone in my class, because your recruiting class is like 25 guys, and then it gets a little bigger once school starts. But no, it was a cool experience that first summer. Like athletes are the only people in Pullman, so it's like all you do is you go work out in the morning, then you just hang out and have fun, and then repeat all the way up until school starts, and those are your friends for like 3 months, and that's all you know. So it's a great experience there, just getting used to them. That's all you just become really good friends with all them, and you're around the team all the time. It's like your extra family, your brothers, because we're with them and go through all the struggles all day. So
Right.
For sure.
you get close real easily.
What does a day in a football player's life at WSU look like?
Yeah, it kind of changes obviously in season, out of season. But let's go with a normal fall, and it depends on the coaching staff too. Like when I first got there, it was lift Tuesday, Thursday in the fall, and then practice was every day but Monday, really. So you'd wake up. Let's say it's a Monday. You wake up. It was Monday was more of a school day, so you just did classwork, did all that. But then Tuesday you'd wake up. Freshman lift time was 6 a.m. I think.
Oh,
Damn.
man.
Get there 5:30. Start lifting. Eat your breakfast, and then get ready for classes that start at 9. Do class from 9 to like 12:30, and then 1:15 was time to get ready because practice meetings started at 1:30. Meetings went 1:30 to 2:30. Practice started at 3. Go to practice 3 to 6, something like that, and then after that eat dinner, and then hopefully fit some schoolwork in there, and then
That's
Fuck,
crazy.
man.
repeat that all the way through the week. It gets shorter, like it was like a decline. By the time Thursday came, it was short practice. Friday was travel day, then game day. So then that repeated, and then off season was when it was really like an even rougher schedule because you can open it up a lot more. So it was lift in the morning every day but Wednesday. That started at 6 a.m.
Damn.
And it usually was run in the morning, do class 9 to whatever, come back, do your lift, meetings, and then carry on with the day. So
Right.
that's all you knew.
Wow.
That's so much self-discipline, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like
No,
you're on a strict schedule.
You definitely learn, and now being out of all that, it's not like full PTSD, but in a way you're just like, all right, when's you hear alarm go off, you're like,
Yeah.
oh crap, I slept in, like I'm missing
Yeah.
something. It's like still getting out of those stages, but it's
Yeah.
weird because that's all you know. But it teaches you routine, discipline, so it's
For
a
sure.
great experience, and you learn so much from
It's like
it.
a boot camp or
It
something.
is.
It
you
It's
is.
like
know?
Man.
a long boot camp.
Yeah.
Did you ever sleep in on a meeting?
I don't think. No, I didn't miss any. I wasn't late until 1 during the summer of COVID, which rules got weird.
Hmm.
But I was still like on time, but it was like you were supposed to be there an hour early to get tested and stuff. But I was like 5 minutes late, and they said since you missed the test, you couldn't work out that day. So in my
Damn.
like 5 years,
Wow.
I was only late once.
Props to you,
Damn.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
But-
definitely takes discipline for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
Probably
Well,
got like 5 alarms set.
Oh,
huh?
my alarm
Yeah.
scroll.
Yeah.
There's no snoozing. There's none of that. They just keep
Yeah.
going off, and you hop out of bed and go.
Yeah.
That's
But if there
funny.
is the time where you're late, you're running. You'll forget everything. You might forget your shoes, your phone. You're just out the door as quick as
Right.
you can be. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that season, that COVID season. I know that one was a
Yeah.
weird one.
Yeah, no, that definitely was a weird season, but that was the time that it really like the world kind of opened up to me because, like I said, my schedule was 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day of football and school, so that's all I knew. But once we had that 3 months off, I think it was that spring, we had that 3 months
Right.
off, and I was able to really see the world. So that's when I got into podcasting. That's when I got into creating clothing. Really seeing everything else I wanted to do outside of football because I had all this free time, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone's life was kind of put on pause, but for me it was like, yeah, my life was put on pause, but it also opened up to a whole bunch of different experiences. And that's kind of where I set the stage and everything I wanted to do, because going into that, once we figured out we had a return, is when the whole Pac-12 We Are United came about, and that's kind of where my platform came,
Mm-hmm.
where I stood up with
Mm.
a couple other college athletes in the Pac-12 and said, hey, we need health and safety standards, we need compensation, we need NIL, we need everything, protect all sports, women's sports. We started writing out the list of demands that came out, and I was the graphic designer for that, and I'd post it, and all those things blew up, and it was cool to just see like I had this platform and ability to make changes and give comfort to other athletes. So that whole thing came about, and that was just a wild what
Right.
was it, like 2 months or so, because we were released to August 1st, and that's when no one really knew it, because some schools had good protection. WSU was doing really good, but hearing the
Right.
stories of other schools, it got pretty crazy, and I was like, hey, I need to do this, I need to help out. whether it's for this generation or the next generation of athletes. And that was the start of that crazy season. And then we got canceled for a month, I think. So
Yeah.
we got delayed and then ended up having a 4-game schedule. And then that was wild because it was testing every day. It was, you don't know if I'm going to play this week or not. I think the Cal game was canceled 30 minutes before kickoff.
Yeah.
And then it was just every week you didn't know what was going to happen. So it was stressful and didn't know what was expecting. It was just a crazy season. And then the final game, 7 plays in, I break my ankle.
Damn.
Off a 7-game season. And that was just another downhill slope to go through, an injury, and a major injury right there. And just trying to recover from that and, play another season and just get back right. But that also put another pause in my life. And during that time, I got approached for the brewery. I did a whole bunch of different freelance projects for companies around Washington, some nationwide ones. So a whole lot of things had opened up, and I realized, hey, the other things I want to do, podcasting really became a thing, showing colors. That's when that developed, to kind of talk about the mental health issues, to talk about life, to talk about what's going on from COVID, because obviously that lasted so long. So that was another podcast, Showing Colors, I had with 2 other athletes at WSU. So a lot of stuff opened up from COVID, opened up from, having an injury, to open up to this, like, normal life that I was living. I guess it's not fully normal. An athlete's life, it's normal to us at some point. Yeah. But then having a pause on that, it kind of opened it up to what else I wanted to do.
Right.
So those 3 months were critical for you to build kind of your brand, right?
Yeah. That's when I started. I think I made Creators Collective, which was I have so many, my notes are full of different ideas. And that was one of the ideas that generated, it was supposed to be this collective of, different business owners in the Pullman area in Washington to, sell clothes, do videography, photography, and companies would just approach us. That was the big main idea. Lost time. I didn't have enough hands in it. And, it kind of went downhill, but I still kind of use it a little bit. I'm going to bring it back eventually just to sell clothing on there, and hopefully bring it back to get videographies, photographies, maybe turn into a creative agency at some point. We'll see what happens. And then podcasting happened, and then a whole lot of stuff just happened in that 3 months.
Right. Man, it sounds like 2020 was just like a transformational year for you.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Major year.
Switched everything up. Yeah. I'm sure in your plans, you were like, man, I'm going to give it my all.
Yeah.
This is, I'm going to give football my all. But it sounds like, COVID and then injuries kind of changed that.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, that would have been like detrimental, right? Like you could have just sat there and been like, man, you know what? This sucks. Like, I'm not happy with this. Kind of shut yourself out. But you saw opportunity in that.
Exactly.
And I think that's powerful, man.
Yeah.
I want to touch on the activism that you did, man, because that's super important.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a thing that got highlighted a lot during that COVID time. And, you shed your own light and perspective on it. Was that your first kind of activist experience?
That was my first time to step out of, what I was used to, like the norm. And
yeah,
a big thing we coined it, we called it like this, we called it, shoot, now I'm blanking on my word. Just a conveyor belt. There we go.
Conveyor belt. Yeah.
We call it this conveyor belt of college athletics. You hop on your freshman year and you're riding it and everything's good. We're grateful because, we have a scholarship, we have food, we get equipment, we get all these great things. So you're just like stuck on the conveyor belt. And then one thing happens, we call it breaking down, like a conveyor belt breaks down and you get like pushed off to the side. And 2020 is when I got off the conveyor belt. I realized everything's great and you're headed the right way and you provided everything, but then you realize everything that's also wrong inside of college athletics. You realize the struggles people are going through. You realize all these different things, and that's where this whole activism came about. And it was my first time to step off the conveyor belt and realize it. And it was just a crazy experience because you don't realize all the stories and issues. And it's nice to see all these, the hidden opponent, Molly's message, I think it is. There's a whole bunch of things coming out now to share about mental health and everything that's happening in college athletics.
Right.
Because for a while, everyone was scared to talk about it. People are still scared to talk about it, but there's so many outlets now that you can talk about it. And I was happy to be a part of, starting this activism and creating a platform to stand up. And I think a lot of athletes realize in 2020, like, we have a platform, we can speak about all these things. And that's really where it came about. Not only myself through We Are United, but you just see a whole bunch of people using their platform. So this activism came and, it really changed. It got me used to speaking on a mic. It got me used to, doing interviews, talking. And that's really where my podcast came from, because I realized, hey, I like to talk about all these things. And I need to give a platform or a place for people to listen as well. So the activism came, and it was a great opportunity and opened up so much for me.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. So, a lot of us, and I'm sure a lot of people watching, aren't college athletes,
Uh-huh.
and obviously haven't experienced that time during COVID. Like, what are some of those stories? Like, what were people sharing about their experiences in other schools?
Yeah, people were sharing, how coaches acted when, you do some things different, or the crazy ones I heard was some of the COVID things, like how they were changing rules to try and um, dampen numbers or throw
Mm,
guys in that weren't ready, like they were sick and these protocols weren't in place. And that's really what got me in first, because COVID was happening at the time. And I was like,
Right.
all right, hey, I need to help out here. But then you get in there and you listen to stories of mental health and how coaches are talking to players, or um, injuries that people are going through and the experiences they had to do to bounce back, and just all this story sharing. You hear like these personal stories and you're like, dang, like I would love to help this, and obviously at the time I wasn't thinking like, hey, I'd help my generation of athletes. It was more for, we all kind of came together and say, yeah, stuff might not change for us right now, but 5 years down the line, a year down the line, it will change for that generation of athletes. And so those stories were, the turning point for my experience to, try and help out.
wow, that's
Yeah.
powerful. It almost seems like you opened up a can of worms. Like you
Uh-huh.
started off with one thing, the COVID stuff,
Yeah.
and all these stories started emerging, and you kind of just dove into that.
Then you
But
get health and safety
yeah,
standards, mental health, protecting all sports. You see a program get shut down, like Stanford wrestling got shut down, and then 6 months later they win a whole bunch of national champions. And it's like, why is this program shut down and stuff like that? So we
Right.
got big into protecting all sports, protecting women's sports, Title IX issues. Then we got to racial inequalities through whatever it is, because most college athletic teams are predominantly black, and a lot of them don't have money to go back to. So it was like we're pushing for this time to, in college, to get them money. Create the idea of generational wealth.
Right.
yeah,
If you can start getting money, at least they can do it now. NIL is pushing for that. They can get money from their name and create this wealth right now, or create a platform that, only 2% make it to the NFL.
Right.
So it's like, hey, I'm spending this 5 years in college, and I'm getting great things from it, but I'm not getting everything back that I could do to create my future. So it's this time of having NIL and creating generational wealth that we were pushing for, to get a little bit of money back from all the hard work we're putting in. And we really wanted to push for that because,
right,
myself, I got lucky. I had my grandma, I had my parents, that struggled, working jobs, um, driving me all different places. It's costly to do 4 different sports. So I'm lucky
Oh
to
yeah.
have those people. But, some people don't have parents to help out, don't have grandparents, don't have family members to even help buy the expensive shoes, equipment, baseball bats, everything that's cost so much
right.
money. So they don't get to get into sports. So then they don't get to the next level. So then they never see some type of money, and it creates a whole bunch of systemic issues. And there's so much that I learned from all these experiences, all these stories, that I'm grateful for my experiences, but there's people around me that are coming from places that don't get the same experiences. And everything I have now is from sports, is from working through all that stuff. And just through one little experience to have my parents pay for this and pay for this, it ended up getting me to this point. And I'm grateful. And there's somehow a way that I need to give back to all these people that are struggling, that don't get the opportunities.
For
Yeah,
sure.
that's powerful.
I wanna chat a little bit about the NIL. So for those that
Mm-hmm.
don't know what NIL is, it's name, image, likeness,
Yep.
right? And that's the I guess the agreement, or like it allows NCAA players to make money off of their own image.
Yep.
Did you have conversations with like the school about that and like how you guys would implement it? Or
Yeah, it was kind of bigger than a school. Obviously, the school couldn't decide until the NCAA decided. I think
right,
it was June 1st where the NCAA put out a blanket waiver to say all athletes are able to do it. And then from there, it kind of just opened up, and it's going to keep changing from here on out. It changes every day. There's so much happening around it. But just for this experience to happen, I didn't think I'd ever see it. I didn't think it'd be in my time frame, but to know that I was able to push for it, and really create some changes. I was doing some stuff with the governor of Washington. I was doing stuff with people on Capitol Hill. Like I was doing some crazy experiences that I'd never be able to do, but, you know, was fighting to push for some change, and it ended up happening. I was able to do a little bit through it, you know, working with you guys, working with a whole bunch of different other little small companies, able to actually pull out my freelance and say, hey, I'm Dallas Hobbs. I'm a college football player, but I also do graphic design. And that's the biggest side I took away from it. Just being able to do stuff like that. Like, I have people on my team that are guitar players, you know, musicians, but they weren't able to like promote that on their main social media pages. You have to create other social media pages to hide all that. So it was cool. Just a lot of people see it as, oh, hey, they get all this money from businesses, you know, they get all these sponsorships, but there's smaller stuff where we can now, you know, be graphic designers and tell the world about that. Be musicians, tell the world about that. You can host a camp now in your hometown. You used to not be able to do that.
Oh, I didn't know.
So you're talking about, you know,
Wow.
women's athletics. You're talking about kids that, you know, don't have a huge platform to take on sponsorships. They can take on odd jobs. They can start camps, be musicians, really do whatever they want and make money off it, and, you know, get back of all the hard work and everything that we're providing for universities, providing for the NCAA. We can do that now and get money back. So everyone sees it as this bigger picture, and that's what I get mad about. You know, oh, this person just got 100,000. Oh, great for them, they got 100,000. But they think everyone's taking big money pools from this.
Right.
But even $50 helps, or even be able to run your own camp, or be a musician. For myself, be a freelance graphic designer and start getting gigs from that. So there's a whole bunch more to it that people don't see, and they think it's ruining sports, but it's also opening up new platforms, creating avenues for a whole lot of different people. So those are experiences, the stories I want to share for the things that people aren't seeing, because everyone's seeing all the stuff that's, oh, this is wrong, that they're able to do that. We've been getting taken advantage of for so long. Like, these are great experiences. I'm happy when I see someone get all this money, because you know, we've been making so much money for the universities and for so many different other things.
Absolutely.
That's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I want to talk about like your creative kind of experiences. So you have the podcast, you know, your graphic designer, clothing brand. What kind of dove you into that? Like, did you have experience with that like in high school, or did you just fully start during that period?
I'd say it always had like a creative side to me. You know, my mom always had like, she always did craft making and did a whole bunch of like poster boards and stuff she used to make. And I used to do all different, I used to love art class, you know, in elementary, high school, just making stuff. And initially I wanted to be an engineer and go that route. I mean, that was my plan all the way up until prep school. And then graphic design came into play, and it like brought my art ability back. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to get the engineering big bucks, but, you know, I get to be creative and have fun. And every day at my job, it's going to be fun because I'm creating stuff. And that's where graphic design came into play. It was mainly like sports graphics, you know, when everyone, I think 2017 is when it got big for like commitment edits and stuff like that, top schools. I was doing all that for people. And I was like,
cool.
I actually really enjoyed this, because it started when I was committed to the University of Connecticut. A player put in our group chat like a picture of his like commitment edit to UConn when it was first becoming big, because it used to be no one did that. And I was like, hey, I think I can do better than this. Pulled out my phone, just started doing it. And then from there, it turned into Photoshop, learning all these different skills. And from there, it's open to all the stuff I have now. So it's cool.
So all self-taught?
Yeah, all self-taught.
That's
YouTube
cool.
University.
Wow,
Nice.
man. There you go. YouTube's
But, you know, I've had a
time.
couple mentors that have taught me some stuff. I did where my first big gig was working for the Cougar Athletic Fund, being an intern for them. So I learned some skills through that for print design and everything that I needed to do through that.
Got it.
So now today you're working full time for WSU under this creative media team, right?
Yep. Which is really cool how big we're bringing that up, and it's actually we're making splashes to be known as. I think we've been top 25 for the last couple of months for the creative design compared to like other schools and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's really cool to see all these things, because before I think it was one person running it all, videographer, photographer, graphic design, doing all that stuff.
That's wild.
And that's kind of, I even did it my freshman year. I was doing some like helping out, doing some stuff just for fun and like throwing some stuff their way because we didn't have it. And now we're a team of three full time. And then we have a couple interns. I think we have 6 video interns now. We have a couple design interns. So we're turning into a whole department now. And it's cool to just be a part of that and see it grow. I'm to see the experience, because we're, you know, helping out, sharing stories for the guys. And I'm still around the team doing that whole thing, because I had another year, but I knew NFL wasn't happening for me. I had a whole bunch of, you know, freelance stuff, the brewery. I had all this stuff going on. I was like, hey, let me, hang up the cleats and take this great opportunity and kind of grow myself professionally and, figure out what I can do outside of football.
Yeah, and you're doing a lot. So you mentioned, well, one, you're on the creative team.
Yep.
You have all these side businesses, including that brewery. Let's
Yep.
talk a little bit about the brewery.
Yeah, that's a crazy experience because if you told me it's been about a year and a half now, but if you told me a year ago, 2 years ago that I was gonna open up a brewery, I'd have told you I'd crazy because I didn't
Right.
even really like beer at the time. Like there was some stuff I liked, but I wasn't like full dive. I didn't make a podcast from it. I wasn't going to different cities and the first thing I look up is, hey, what breweries here, or on Instagram searching all this stuff. So it's pretty cool to see that experience. But that all came from just being professional and doing stuff through the school. One of the main guys of the brewery ended up reaching out to my program, Digital Technology and Culture, asking for a student to design a logo. My name came up. He knew nothing about me, but my name came up. They emailed me, and I said, of course, I'd love to do it. So ended up being like 150 different logos.
Wow.
Damn, man.
It's a big job.
We went through a whole bunch of name changes. We went through a whole bunch of stuff. But really all I was supposed to do is design a logo, and that's it. But I've obviously been doing graphic design freelance for 5 years. So I kind of already knew what to do. None of them were from Washington. So I told them, hey, these are the communities we can serve. This is everything we can do to benefit the brewery the best way. And they're like, we really enjoy what you do. Like you have a real professionalism to you already for being how young you are. So they ended up offering me ownership, and obviously I took it. And then from there, I became director of marketing design, have ownership in the business. We were supposed to be originally in Pullman. Now we're in Spokane. We're about a month old, and it's going well from here. So I'm excited to see that grow.
That's awesome. What's the space like for the brewery?
Yeah, it's actually a really big space. It's cool to see that just because most people aren't blessed with the location we have. We're right there on the corner across from the knitting factory. A whole bunch of theaters, comedy clubs right across the street and stuff.
Perfect.
And we have huge windows that are floor to ceiling on basically every side, so everyone can see in, have a good mood in there. I think it's like 2,500 square feet plus brewery space, and it can hold like 120 people.
Wow.
We've been doing private events. We've had special events because our biggest thing, we're not trying to be a normal brewery. That's really what touched me, was what they were trying to do. So we're gonna give 25% of our proceeds back to the community, to help out women, to help out children, to help out, really the biggest part is underrepresented communities. So Black, Hispanic, Native American, all that. We're going to give back to different organizations that are going on, and just different, philanthropy things that we can do to really help out the community. So that's what really brought me in, because it's not just this normal brewery. Because the brewing industry, as most people know, is predominantly white males, and that's what most people see. But I could go on a whole tangent because brewing started so long ago, and it was actually in African culture. Women started it; they were the ones brewing everything, and then alewives came along, and then people started taking it, like everything in this world. People started taking over and changing the whole narrative, and the brewing industry was actually based off African American culture.
Damn, I did not know that.
I didn't know that either.
So there's a lot behind it that people, you can go in a whole lot, kind of like Jack Daniels, where that was, and there's a whole bunch. So what we're trying to do, our long-term goal is to have kind of like an internship, like a apprentice program for those underrepresented communities. So bring in Black brewers, bring in Native American brewers, and show like, hey, there's people brewing that look just like you, because that's how most people pick up their careers. If they can't see someone at the top that looks like them, it's hard for them to hop into that industry, and that's what we're trying to do, and then also give back. So it's a great thing happening there. Common Language, we're based out of Spokane, all in-house brewing, and it's just a great experience.
That's dope, man. And so from that marketing job, it spawned a whole different level of opportunity for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Normally, people coming out of college would be worried about applying for jobs or like, where am I going to land, after college? But damn, man, you're running your own brewery. That's awesome.
It's been really cool just to have all those experiences coming out of college and not really having to worry. It means I can take my stuff and other worries and go other routes, because the biggest concern is, getting a career out of college. But obviously I had that. So now I got to start helping out in other areas to give other people opportunities.
Yeah, man, you're doing all these things, wearing so many hats.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing you're actually doing is you have multiple different podcasts,
Uh-huh.
but we were talking about it right before that you're starting a new podcast, the More Podcast. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that one really came about because I needed my own. So originally
Right.
I had Showing Colors. That was with 2 other athletes. Obviously, we all went to different areas. We were on different schedules. It's hard to get 3 athletes in the same room.
Yeah.
And then our
Yeah.
biggest thing was to interview other athletes. So trying to manage
Oh,
all those
man.
different schedules on different sports, it was just a mess. And then everything happened. So hopefully we'll bring it back at some point in our lives, but it's hard to do all that. And, I love doing podcasts now. So I was like, hey, let me start up my own show. It's been in the works for a while. I have like 3 episodes recorded, but still trying to figure out if that's the feel I want. I might re-record those. But the biggest thing is, it's called More just because I want to open up and, talk to not only athletes, but, musicians, designers, clothing designers, people just out there in the world just doing stuff and really share their stories, give them a platform. Because being an athlete, I had a platform, I had easy access to a platform, but there's artists out there, there's, designers out there, other people that are just living a normal life and don't get the same platform to talk about their experiences and share different stuff. So that's kind of where I got that, because I want to just talk about more. There's more to everyone. Share their story, do all that. So I'm going to bring on a whole bunch of different people, from across the country. First episode was with my friend Badger. He's a singer-songwriter out of Baltimore, Maryland. I used to play basketball with him in Iowa. Then my other one was my roommate, and then it just keeps expanding from that. And that's what that one's going to be about.
That's dope. And
And
what was that
cool.
called again?
Just More.
More
A
podcast?
by Dallas Hobbs.
More
And yeah.
Podcast.
We'll make sure to put it in the description for
Yeah,
you too.
and hopefully soon those episodes will get released and I'll figure that whole thing out.
Yeah.
But the one that's most active right now is Hazy Sessions, and that one kind of stems off the brewery, because my old college roommate, he was working at a brewery. I was coming into the brewing industry. At first, it just started with us talking craft beer and life and doing a review, like giving a 1 out of 5, and that's kind of how the podcast was about. But now, opened up a brewery officially, I was kind of like, hey, I can't really review. Who am I to review beer? So we kind of just switched it to it's a podcast for us to catch up, talk about life, talk about random things going on, and then obviously talk about the craft beer industry. So that one's Hazy Sessions. We have 7 episodes, just recorded another one. So that's a bi-weekly podcast that we release out, and just kind of random stuff, but then around the craft beer industry.
Do you have a go-to beer?
My own common language. But no, outside of that, there's this app called Tavor, and it ships the beer to your house.
Oh, no way.
Wow.
So I got a couple beers. I just got one with 12 beers, like 2 of them from Iowa, 1 from Maryland, 1 from Texas. So it just brings a whole bunch of beers that you can't get at your local, craft beer shop or grocery, and they ship it right to your house. It's actually based out of Seattle.
Oh, that's
Oh, wow.
interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And
That's
that's called what again?
Tavor. It's just an
Tavor.
app, and you go on there, and
Tavor.
it's like the top beers in the country, and they just rotate it every day. New ones come on, others go off, and it's
Yeah.
like beer that will sell out. And I just got a Jester King bottle. They're out of Texas. The bottle was like $40, but you couldn't get it outside of Texas, and it sold
Oh.
out within minutes on the app.
Oh, wow. It's like the
Damn.
shoe drops, right? Like you
Yeah,
got to
it's
be right
just
there,
like-
ready to go.
Some of the beer on there is just like a shoe drop. So it's
That's
really cool
wild.
just being in the craft beer industry and being able to try all different types of beer. So I don't really have a go-to, but there's in the Pacific Northwest, there's so many different breweries. So it's
Right.
like
Yeah.
we have so many different options. And
It's almost like looking at stars on a map.
yeah,
or
just
something.
just this weekend it was Seattle Beer Fest. So we went to a whole bunch of different breweries, got to try a whole bunch of stuff,
Nice.
and it was fun.
That's dope. So Common Language Brewing, make sure to check that out. Do you guys sell like cans or bottles?
Yeah, in-house we sell cans and stuff,
Okay.
and crowlers and growlers.
Yeah.
Hopefully soon, once we figure out distribution. That's why I hope to get to a point where I'm full freelance with my graphic design. That way I can be up in Spokane and do a little bit more. I love the creative team at WSU, but I want to get outside of sports for a little bit. I can always come back. So hoping to get full freelance at some point, whether that's 5 years down the line, whenever, just to get more of the brewery scene and push more marketing, because I want to end up hopefully taking over distribution as well.
Mm.
So I'll manage
Right.
distribution and, sell the product, talk to different companies around the Pacific Northwest. But hopefully we have distribution within the next year or so, so we can get it. We'll already start getting it in restaurants and bars here soon, but trying to get our beer in shelves and stuff like that. I hope to manage that and hope to take that over, and then you can see our beer.
That's
like
cool.
in other places. But right now it's just in the tap room. You can take it to go with 4-packs.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, make sure to check out Common Language Brewing in Spokane. And just want to thank you, Dallas, for coming on the show
thanks,
today,
Dallas.
man.
Of course. No, it's been a great opportunity.
And make sure to like, subscribe, comment what your thoughts are on the episode, what you want to see next, and catch us next time.